What is up, YouTube? That's here, and today I'm going to be bringing you guys an advanced team building guide for Pokemon Legends ZA, and today we're going to be building around a very high skill ceiling Pokemon, and that is Mega Chandelure. I haven't seen a lot of people using Mega Chandelure, and they're definitely sleeping on this one. So before we get into the guide, I want to go over what this guide is going to be. It's going to be going over advanced EV training steps, everything you need to know to get the most out of your Pokemon. We're going to be running a bunch of specific damage calculations to make sure that we do the right amount of damage, but also survive the right amount of moves from our opponents. We're going to be building our team from scratch and adding the perfect partners to support Chandelure and breaking down the flowcharts that you need to know to get the most out of your Pokemon in competitive battles for Pokemon ZA. So if that sounds like fun, you know, sit back, max, relax, maybe think about dropping a like or a sub on the channel, and let's just get right into it. So Mega Chandelure, and specifically like Chandelure, what does this really bring to the table? We're going to open up Pokemon Showdown here because it's a great resource for like understanding the stats of all of your Pokemon. And so you really need to get familiar like with both the math that goes into like building these teams and like the actual gameplay. So we're going to be building the team from scratch, talking about all the EVs, stats, everything, and then we're going to play this team in a bunch of ranked games. So we're going to type in both these guys here, and you can see regular Chandelure has one of the highest special attack stats in the game. It's a 145, decent defenses, pretty low HP, but like it's a pretty good Pokemon. And then Mega Chandelure turns it up to 11, right? We have 175 base special attack, 110, 110, like it's really, really good. Now, before we really get into like adding the right mons and going over all the EVs and running the calcs, I want to like talk about something we've seen a lot pop up on like Discord and Twitch, and I've seen a lot of people just running mons. Like the old Chandelure sets would just be something like this. You know, you just run it like 252 modest. I've seen so many people putting points in speed, and speed doesn't work the way that I think a lot of people are used to it working in previous Pokemon games. A lot of people are used to speed working like, you know, I'm going to hit hard, I'm going to hit fast, I'm going to go before my opponent. They think it's probably increasing your Pokemon's movement speed around the map in this game, and that is not the case. The only thing that speed actually affects is cooldown reduction. That's why you're seeing so many Pokemon in all the tournaments that we're playing in are like full bulky things. Like Mega Slowbro is like really good in this game because you don't need like cooldown reduction. That's not like something that's actually that important to your Pokemon here. So realistically, you want to go for bulk. You don't really need a lot of speed. I would say speed is a stat that is best built for like support Pokemon that want to use like status moves and other like hazards and things like that. So they can get all of their rotation out of the way and then pivot to something else. So instead of putting it on your sweepers, you would put, you know, speed on things like Klefki, Carbink, things like that. I know that sounds so weird, but that's just how the math kind of works in this game. So that being said, what do we want to do with Chandelure? I know a lot of people are probably going to be building off of Alpha Chandelure, so I think a lot of people are probably just building their sets, you know, something like this. And while that's not terrible, I think there are a few ways that we can optimize these sets, because realistically, you do not need this much special attack. It's massively overkill. I think it's a good idea to go full HP, but then we actually want to think like, what is Chandelure's like role in the team? What is Chandelure actually bringing to the table, and what do you actually want to KO with the Chandelure? What do you want to live from? You got to start thinking about these things. I want you guys to get excited about, you know, thinking about what you need to counter and like thinking about the right mons to add for the right situations. It's super important. It gets your brain thinking proactively, and that's how you improve at things. So Mega Chandelure and Chandelure, what mons are we trying to beat? Like, why are we actually even using this thing? The reason why I think we're using this thing is because one of the most popular Pokemon in the format are going to be things like Metagross, things like Excadrill. There are a lot of Pokemon that have a weakness to Chandelure. Like, there's a lot of Pokemon. There's, like I said, there's Metagross here. There's Excadrill. There's also things like I was talking about like earlier, like Slowbro. Like this is also weak to, you know, our ghost typing. There's also things like Gardevoir still running around. So like Mega Chandelure is actually like really, really good in like as a mid-game sweeper, being able to come out. You don't even need to like pop your Mega if you don't have the Mega like, you know, stones or whatever you need to do that. You can just come out and just like, blow things up. So we got to think like Chandelure is like a mid-game like tank like sweeper thing. Like that's like the role of this Pokemon. And so we need to actually start adding the right mons onto the team, the right core to, you know, fully facilitate what Mega Chandelure brings to the table. And so to really get a good understanding of the right teammates and the right defensive typings that we actually need to add to support Mega Chandelure and its goals of like sweeping the opponent's team, what mons really need to be added. If we plug in Maryland here, we can see this defensive type chart. It's going to show all of our weaknesses and all of our resistances. So Chandelure has a weakness to water, it has a weakness to ground, it has a weakness to rock, ghost, dark, all those typings, but it also has a ton of resistances. It's one of the few mons in the game that resists like fairy. It's a very good resist to have in this meta. It resists steel. So like you can already see like there's a lot of like mons. You can cover up for dragons, you can cover up for like fairies and things like that. It has a resistance to bug, which is not that, you know, useful here, but it's a quad resist too, so that's kind of nice on ghost and fire. there. Resistance to poison, so you can already see like you could add like a fairy type here and cover up for like the steel and poison weakness right there. I want you to start thinking proactive. It's super, super important. Nullification to fighting on our ghost typing, resistance to ice. So like there's a lot of value here. We could slot in a dragon here or like a fairy here and have like multiple defensive typings that we can cover up for. Also like a resistance to like grass and fire. Very, very good stuff. That being said, I think I'm going to go a slightly different route than like the dragon or fairy, which definitely could be viable. I think I'm going to add a chestnut. And I think I'm going to add it's going to be regular chestnut here. Over like the mega chestnut, just because like I know a lot of people are using mega chestnut on ranked, but I don't think that you can get that like legit, so we're just going to talk about regular chestnut. But look what chestnut does when we add it to the team builder here. It doesn't double up any other weaknesses. You don't really want to stack too many weaknesses if possible, and what it does is it really flushes out our resist. Let's think of things that Chandelure is weak against. Things like rock, things like water, things like ground. Chestnut resists all of those types. Let's think of things that chestnut is weak against. You know, things like fairy, things like ice, you know, stuff like that. Like Chandelure comes in and resists all of those as well. I think that they're just a really, really good solid core. So if something does pin your Chandelure, you can probably go to that chestnut. Like for example, are you pinned by a water type on your Chandelure? Pivot to a chestnut and wood hammer it. Pretty easy peasy lemon squeezy. Start thinking of these little mini cores. Think of your defensive coverages and the defensive mons you can go to. Now the last mon that I want to add here is going to be a mon that gives us like a different way to play like a long range game. Remember, we're building this team around Chandelure. We have Chestnut as our good defensive pivot. I want another long range like special attacker. I think special attackers are just a little bit better in the meta right now because everyone else is running so much bulky offense on like bulky things like Garchomp, Metagross, Excadrill. And so you're starting to see people start to tech in like curses, iron defenses, reflex. And so I want to add another special attacker here that complements these three typing. And I want to test another Pokemon that I haven't really used that much on ranked yet, and that's going to be Mega Greninja. So plug in Greninja here, you see it adds a lot more depth to the type chart. You see we get a second fairy weakness, but remember Chandelure is a fairy resist, so for every 2 weaknesses that you have in a specific type, I would say you're fine as long as you also have 1 resist. So, you know, Chestnut and Greninja are both weak to fairy, but, you know, you can pivot into Chandelure to block a fairy attack, right? And then repin them. You gotta also think about what mons are using those fairy attacks. I would say the most common fairy mon on ranked right now is Gardevoir, and you actually repin Gardevoir with a Shadow Ball. So that's actually really, really good. As far as the rest of the team goes, we have double resistances to Steel, we have double resistances to Dark now. So like, again, if we ever have Chandelure on the board, and they want to come out with like, you know, a big Dark type user, we can pivot right to there. And then look how many like good like resistances we have. We have 2 resistances to fire, so like if Chestnut's ever on the board, both of our mons are a good fire pivot. We have 2 resistances to water. If Chandelure's ever on the board, we have 2 resistances to water. So you're starting to see a pattern when we're building these teams, we always want to have more than just one option if possible. We want to double up on the things that are common here. And I think Greninja also, I just want to say, greatly complements this team because what is Chandelure really weak against? You know, like ground moves, rock moves, things like that. So being able to pivot into Greninja, yes, we could still take those attacks at neutral damage, but our super effective moves, our water moves, potentially using Ice Beam too, could then repin those mons. So it's not only like swapping to mitigate damage, but then repinning those mons, forcing them to switch, forcing them to leave you alone, and it just alleviates a lot of the pressure off your Chandelure to let Chandelure like carry to its fullest extent. So that's going to be the defensive typing for the team. Let's plug these back into our little team builder over here, and I just want to remind you guys, if you guys are liking the content, please think about dropping a sub. We're trying to get to 50k before the end of the year. Heck, it would be amazing to get to 50k before the end of the month. Holy moly, we've been absolutely gaming over here. Think about dropping a sub if you like the content, and let's go into the Eevee train, the meat and potatoes, the thing you guys actually came here for. So we're going to plug in our Chestnut here, and we're going to plug in our Mega Greninja. And we're just going to plug in the Greninja, like regular Greninja right now, and add the Greninja-ite. And I will say, if you're still looking for a team to get you to, you know, rank K to unlock the Greninja-ite, this is going to be an amazing team to do that. It can be super easy, probably going to take you about 20 games, maybe even a little bit less, depending on, like, your skill level upon piloting it. So just let me know if you have any questions about getting to rank K. I'm going to do my absolute best to help as many people get this Greninja-ite as possible. So let's talk about Chandelure. And let's go away from this Eevee spread that we had here. The first thing you want to do when building like an Eevee spread is think about what do you want to either KO or live. I would say Chandelure doesn't really have a problem KOing things, especially if we add in, you know, like the red power boost and any like Calm Mind setup moves you might get. We're not going to have a problem in the damage dealing department. I would say Chandelure's biggest problem would realistically come from damage like soaking. We don't want to get O-code by a bunch of the popular Pokemon. We actually want to pin those extra drills. We want to actually like soak an attack from a Garchomp or a Gyarados and do like big damage back and not be scared of like 1v1ing those Pokemon. You might think that that's not possible, but that is possible through the use of damage calcs. Damage calculation, this is what, you know, all the good Pokemon players use. And today we're going to look at some damage calcs here for Chandelure. So we're going to plug in Chandelure on the right hand side. Remember, this is going to be our attacker. This is going to be our defender. Whenever you're the attacker, let's plug in a Excadrill, for example, right? Chandelure would like to fight Excadrill in a lot of situations. And, you know, I think a lot of people would also be afraid of fighting Excadrill, but like not our Chandelure, right? So whenever you're the attacker and you're running a damage calculator, you want to look at what your low roll is. You want to make sure that your low roll is the, you know, that's the lowest amount you can do, because there's not every move is going to do the same amount. You have a range of about 62 to 74% uninvested, no EVs or anything like that. For the dig to get the KO. Like, you might be able to get the KO 62% of the time off this dig with no EVs, right? And when you're the defender, what you want to look at is like the higher roll number over here. Right, so I just want to say, like, a lot of people never understand. They're like, they run damage calcs and they're like, oh, I should have KO'd. It's at 111%, and it's like, that's the high roll. That's if you got lucky. Look at your low rolls if you're the attacker, the high rolls if you're the defender, because you want to be able to live through the never lucky situations, right? So that being said, let's plug in like an Excadrill set, just a regular Excadrill, because like we're not going to be talking about Mega Excadrill yet. You have to imagine a situation where if we're going to be calcing versus Mega Excadrill, we have to assume that we also have the ability to go Mega as well, right? That's just a fair assumption. And so, like, yes, they gain a lot more attack, but we also gain a lot more defense. So we can run some additional calcs for Mega Excadrill in a little bit, but if we're just talking about the early to mid game, we're assuming they don't have Mega Excadrill on board just yet. I would say that's a more unique situation. But let's make this Excadrill adamant, and so you can see Dig just one-shots. And a lot of people use Dig. Let's use Dig and Drill Run as an example. The reason why we use Dig, I would say, is just because, like, you know, they do the same amount. They're both base 80s. Let's also, for good nature, plug in an Earthquake here. So if we plug in our Chandelure here, you can see that we get O-code by all of these. And it would be really nice to be able to do some fire attacking damage to that Excadrill, but unfortunately we get KO'd. But if we use correct EVs, we can actually avoid that. So let's put full HP investment in HP. Let's put full investment in HP. That means you can use an Alpha Chandelure if you like. And the reason why you want to put your max stats in HP first is because it has such a low base. It's going to really amplify the effectiveness of our defenses, maxing out that HP first. So you can see just by doing that, it makes it so the Dig and the Drill Run, on the low roll, they still OHKO. So all you actually have to do is just put 4 points in there and you get to live the Dig. Pretty good stuff. You know, I think that's pretty cool, but I do think that there is a little bit more that we can do. I think that, like, this technically works, but that's only like the percent chance to, like, you know, that's only the percent chance on the low roll for the Dig, right? They can still high roll it and stuff like that, and, you know, you want to make sure, because we're the defender, right? So you want to make sure that this number isn't KOing you, right? So we need to put a lot more in defense. And realistically, the way EVs work is the first 4, because I'm getting way ahead of myself. Remember, this is an advanced guy, but I have to remember a lot of you guys aren't really advanced yet, so I have to go back and talk about this. So the way EVs are run are different from level 50 and level 100. And if you remember, ranked battles are set to level 50. So instead of like just every 8 points gives you 1 stat point like they would at level 100, at level 50, you start with the first 4. The first 4 are going to make us go from 110 to 111. And then after that first 4, it's multiples of 8. So 4 will get you something. 12 will get you something. 20 will get you something. 28, right? The next one will be 36. You're going to see if I go to 32, that doesn't get us anything. It's the same number. You're wasting 4 points, right? So in doing that, the number that we actually need to hit to live this is, I believe, going to be 188. And you can see that actually keeps this guy well off of us. Let's set these guys level 50 here. You can see that keeps us well out of range. If we go down 2 more, we still could potentially get KO'd by those Digs and Drill Runs. But going up to 188 is going to let us live this. And I want to talk about why this is really important that we get to live this move. Because realistically, Excadrill has one of the highest attacks using a stab move. If we can live through this move, right, we can live through a Garchomp Dig, a Gyarados Waterfall, because those are all Pokemon that are weaker than this Pokemon that are using weaker base power moves in some situations. So let's just plug it in. Let's go to Garchomp here. All right, so we can plug in a Garchomp here. plug it all the way down to a blank set. See, Garchomp has a 130 base, so no matter what, even if they go full Adamant Garchomp and they want to use Dig, they can't KO us. And let's go to a Gyarados here. And so you're starting to see a situation where you can utilize these numbers to your advantage and not just lose to a type coverage, right? So if we do all that and plug in Waterfall here, right? Waterfall doesn't KO either. And you can say, well, that's it. What if they go Mega Gyarados? What if they go Mega, right? And they go full 252 Adamant Waterfall. Well, like I talked about earlier, that can KO, but if they go Mega, I would assume that we can also go Mega. Anything you can do, I can do better. So we go Mega Chandelure. And Mega Chandelure with 252, 188. We still get to eat the Waterfall, right? Because we get 20 additional base on our defense when we Mega Evolve, right? So it's really important to understand defensive EVs are really, really important in this game. You don't need a lot of speed. You don't even need full offense. A lot of these times, these Megas are like overtuned to have a lot of extra special attack. And so that being said, we know that we want 252. We know that we want 188. We have 68 points. Now, I think a lot of people would just throw the 68 points in a special attack, give you a special attack boosting nature, and call it right there. There are a couple other tricks that we can do here that are going to be really, really important. And you can utilize these tricks on any Pokemon, and I would highly encourage you guys to do so. We're going to be talking about something called the bump. Now, normally when you combine your nature with EVs, you normally want to be putting your nature in one of your highest stats if possible, because the nature is going to give a 10% boost to whatever stat you put it in. And so by putting it in your highest stats, you're getting a bigger multiplier on that 10%. But when you combine your nature with your EVs, you're going to see we're going to be taking a look at this number on the right here. For every stat tick that we do, it goes up 1, right? But there's certain situations where when you combine the nature and the EVs, you get 2 points, right? And that's what we're trying to hit. We're trying to get an extra point. We're squeezing the value, optimizing, min-maxing, if you will, to get our Chandelure the most amount of special attack possible without actually like over-committing, right? And so you can see right here, we put 36 points, which is more than enough. If you actually go back and run all the calcs, you can still like dump truck the guards. You can still one-shot the Exodals with any of your fire moves and stuff like that. You don't need all that special attack, I promise you. You're massively over-KOing everything when you have full special attack, and anything that you would need to two-shot with like 2 moves, this is still within 2-shot range. So right now we have 32 EVs. Remember, 32 is one of those middle no man's lands in between 28 and 36. So what we actually want to do in this situation is just cut this up into a 28 and just throw the last one in 4. Now remember, I said speed's probably your least important stat, but 80 is a very popular speed tier number. So if you're going up against a bunch of other Pokemon that have 80 base speed, I believe like Gardevoir is an 80 base speed, right? It's another Pokemon that you're going to be fighting up a lot. We want to have a good match against this, and you're both using moves on your cooldowns exactly as fast as possible. This will give you the very slightest edge versus a Gardevoir, just because your moves have just the smallest smidge of cooldown reduction thanks to that speed investment. So it's an extra point, you might as well use it, right? So that being said, that's going to be our Chandelure EV spread. I would highly recommend you try it in your own games. We're going to play some ranked games in just a minute and actually test this out, but what we need to do is find out the rest of the EVs and the items on the rest of our Pokemon and then figure out all of their moves. So going into the Chestnut here, remember, we're not using Mega Chestnut. I know a lot of people have like hacked their games to get it in there, but we're not going to do that. We're going to show you guys a couple other team building tricks you could be using in your own games, and we're going to be showing you guys a Life Orb set on this Chestnut. Now, Life Orb is a really cool item. It's going to make your moves deal 1.3 times damage, and it costs you 10% of your health when you do it. So when you want to use this on a Chestnut, it's not really great to go like full HP because you're taking your HP when you do it. So one trick that you can do with your Life Orb, since it takes a 10th of your health, is if you end your health when you're set at level 50, in a 9, it will take 1 health point less. Remember, we're talking about min-maxing optimize. This is advanced strategies here. So if you take away 1 health every single time, there's a situation where you're going to live at like 3 or 4, and if you've used a couple Life Orb hits, you would have been KO'd otherwise. So by, like I said, ending your HP in a 9 is going to let it take 1 health less every single time. So that means that this is the number that we want to get to, 44 right here. So I would encourage you guys to, EV train your Chestnuts right here if you're using a Life Orb set, or any mon that's using a Life Orb, just end those HP stats in 9. Don't waste a ton of points in HP investment either. Those ones would be built more like heavy, like bulk, or heavy like offense stats with like the rest in bulk, and just get the the HP to end in 9. So that being said, because we know that our HP stat's going to be right here, I would highly suggest a max attack Chestnut here. I think Chestnut has a lot of good coverage. I think it's very, very good. Solid bulk on the defense side. And because we have solid bulk on the defense side, the rest of our stats can honestly just go into SpDef. Or should they? Is another advanced technique. Instead of just putting the 212 here, which is good, 212 is not wasting any points in any situation, what you can do is cut up the last 8 from that 212 into a 204. Remember, we're taking away 1 SpDef point by doing that. Remember, because there's 8 points that we're taking out, and we're going to cut that 8 up into 2 sets of 4 to put 1 point in defense and then 1 point in speed. Now, that doesn't seem like it's that important, but again, it's the slight min-maxings that you're doing to optimize your sets. If you ever were to fight another Chestnut that wasn't doing that, you would have the competitive advantage. So this is going to be a really cool Life Orb Chestnut set. We're going to run 4 attacks on this thing. We don't really need to set up with this guy, and Chestnut's going to be really, really underrated. People are not going to see this thing coming, and it's going to do a ton of damage. It's going to be great. Now, Greninja, I know a lot of people have been asking me to use Greninja. I think Greninja is the most simple one. Realistically, Greninja wants to be max special attack in this game. Does not need to be speed. You don't need speed on this thing. And then Greninja doesn't need to be like optimized. It's going to be like a long range like nuke with like water shriek, and I'm probably going to be running a nasty plot set on this thing. So we don't need like a ton of bulk. Like, it's not like Chandelure, who needs to be able to live through specific things. Greninja is still a glass cannon, but you're just going to be fine doing a 252, 252 4 set. And we're going to put the last 4 in defense, just because, again, there's so many physical moves. And the things that Greninja wants to get up close and duke it out with are using, like, earthquakes, stone edges, stuff like that. So this is a decent Greninja spread right here. You don't really need to optimize it. If you really wanted to, what you could do is go something like this, 244, 4, just for the Greninja mirror, and this is what I'm using in my games, but you don't need to. If you just have a 2v2 Greninja set, as long as it's an HP, it's going to be fine. So this is going to be my set for these 3. Those EVs are pretty nice, so screenshot this, use this in your own games. We're going to talk about our moves, and then we'll show you guys how this team actually plays, and talk about a few other things, like where to get these mons. Let's talk about where to get them. So Chandelure, you can actually catch Alpha Chandelures in Zone 20 if you just reset, sit on the bench and stuff like that. That's where I caught mine. I would say make sure to use like bottle caps to make sure your stats are correct on the HP and the defense at least, and you should just be using bottle caps in general, but that's not required. You can also mint these Pokemon to actually get their natures to be what you want. Mints are 20k. You can buy them at like the various bar vendors and stuff like that. You can also get a Chestnut that comes packed with 3 IVs from one of the side quests, as well as a Froakie that has 3 IVs. And there are 3 IVs in like the stats that they want. I think Chestnut is max HP attack defense, and Greninja is HP attack special attack. Greninja could technically be both. So you can actually get all 3 of these mons with like decent IVs relatively quickly. So let's talk about these movesets and talk about what we actually want to get out of them. Let's go back to the Chandelure here. We know that we're going to want, I would say Flamethrower is going to be a must. I think it's one of the best fire moves in the game. It comes out relatively fast, and it's a long, like, kind of like cannon like that. The long, like, beam moves that kind of stay up for as long as possible. It covers the most around of, like, yeah, I would say board possible, and it's just going to be solid, right? So I think Flamethrower is going to be good. I also really like Fire Blast. I think that some people like to go Heat Wave just because it creates that like cone to do a little bit more AoE damage, but I really do like Fire Blast. I've seen people also talk about Overheat. I think Overheat's fine, but I think I like the Fire Blast and the Flamethrower more. I also want to talk about using Shadow Ball. It's what we're going to need to use, break like guards and stuff like that. It's also good in those Slowbros and stuff like that, and those Metagrosses. We're going to have 3 moves that just dump truck Metagross right off the rip. And remember, because we EV train to live through Excadrill Earthquake, we can also live through Metagross Earthquake. You can 1v1 every elite Metagross with this Chandelure. And then the last move here is actually going to be Calm Mind. I think this is actually going to be really, really good. Calm Mind is going to give us a special attack and SpDef boost. And then, since like we're using, since we have so much HP defense investment, we just become an absolute massive tank that can't get one-shotted. And they're going to come up there with their, ground types and their water types and their everything, and we're just going to soak the damage, one-shot them, one-shot something else, continue to one-shot, get like 2 or 3 KOs before we go down, and like, that's awesome. And that's something that you would not have without like correct EV training. Just 252 HP special attack would not cut it. Like, you need to have the correct EVs for this sort of team to work. So that's going to be the moveset right there. Chestnut. Chestnut's actually kind of cool. I tested a few different movesets. We know we're going to want Wood Hammer, right? We know we're going to want Close Combat. This is another reason why we're not going full HP, is because like we're using like HP draining moves, Life Orbs, Close Combat to drop our defensive stats. Like, we're going hard. We're trying to go like 1-for-1, revenge KO stuff, pin the things. Like, we realistically want to go into Chestnut Chestnut to block like grass attacks from the Greninja, you know, coming into Greninja, or electric attacks that were coming into Greninja, or block like the ground or like water attacks coming into our Chandelure. So we pivot in the Chestnut and just one-shot them. And then we leave, you know, like we just go back to like another mon or something. That's kind of how it works. So these are the two moves we're going to be using more often than anything else. And we got to start thinking like, what is Chestnut weak against? I want you guys to continue to think proactively. What mons give Chestnut the hardest time? I would say something like Metagross with Zen Headbutt, which is still pretty uncommon. Like Zen Headbutt, Ice Punch. You know, I've seen them around with like AVs on leads. I would also say Gyarados with like Bounce and things like that. Those are pretty problematic. So I would say add like Earthquake here. This is going to help us like beat other fire types if we happen to see them. This is going to help us beat, you know, Metagross and stuff like that. It's a little bit of AoE. It's just good. I think it's just good, solid move. And then the last move here is actually going to be Thunder Punch. This lets us beat Gyarados. And then we also have to think, like, what is some of the most common fire mons in the meta? It's going to be Charizard. You can actually just Thunder Punch this Charizard, like, right in the kisser. And if you use, like, a plus move on that and your Life Orb, you'll actually one-shot a Charizard. And they're going to try and fight you. They're going to be walking up to you, be like, yo, I can fight this. And you're just like, easy peasy lemon squeezy, you know, hit him with the haymaker from downtown, Thunder Punch. So pretty cool stuff. Be sure to use those plus moves on this guy. It's going to do a lot of damage. The Greninja, I talked earlier about using Nasty Plot here. I think Nasty Plot is going to be very good. You don't need to use it, but like if you happen to get the Nasty Plot up, you're going to get 2 or 3 KOs if you can, you know, position yourself correctly. And from there, I just like Ice Beam, Dark Pulse. Dark Pulse is here for like Slowbro and Metagross and things like that. And then Water Shuriken is fine. I think Water Shuriken is going to be really good, especially when you're in that Mega mode. I think more often than not, I come in, pop a Mega, you know, go for an Ice Beam on a Dragon, Water Shuriken to pin it, like pin something else. I might pivot, I might go down, that's 2 for 1, like easy peasy. We're just a solid mon. You're not trying to win the whole game with it, but it definitely is good in like the last like 45 seconds of the game. You can come back with Greninja, and that's like definitely how I like to play this mon. But that being said, if you guys have any questions about this team, please think about letting me know, and let me know if you have any other questions about team building. We're trying to make a ton of like competitive team building content. We're running tournaments. We're doing so much stuff. You can also join our competitive community. We have a Discord that's going to be linked in the description. And yeah, what we're going to do now is go play some battles and show you guys actually how this team works on the ranked ladder, show you guys how to play it. And before we get into that, the last thing I want to talk about here is the most important thing. We're not leading with Chandelure. We're leading with Chestnut. I forgot to mention that. It's so important. Chandelure is good, but it's good once like you know what you're fighting, right? So like Chestnut is going to be exactly what we want to fight. Like all the mons I just mentioned, like the Chestnut's good against, or like the Earthquakes and the Thunder Punches and stuff like that. Those are all leads. Like Chestnut can come out and utilize the fact that we have like a damage increasing item on our Life Orb to actually bully mons just holding Megastones. Like I see everyone just running Megastones on their leads and all over the ranked ladder. This lets you have an advantage early. You just come in and say, you're done. You're done. 1 shot, 2 shot, get a quick 2, 3 KOs. And then like you already have like a massive advantage on first place by the time you actually can get your Megas up to go into your Chandelure or your Greninja safely. And remember, since we organized our team so well with the defensive typings, if we're afraid of, you know, any sort of like ice attacks or fairy attacks or anything that would really threaten our Chestnut, we can just go right into our Chandelure or Greninja to mitigate that damage. So it's going to be really important to lead with our Chestnut here, utilize it correctly, and yeah, let's hop into some ranked games. Wish me luck. Here we go. All right, as you can see, I have my full team in game. I already had it prepped, ready to go, and I think I'm gonna play this team in some tournaments this week too. If you guys want to know more about tournaments, we're hosting a bunch, and we usually do them every single day in like the afternoons to early evenings on Twitch. Think about checking them out sometime. They're a lot of fun. We do 6v6 singles tournaments. We do, you know, free-for-all tournaments that are just like the ranked ladder, and I just think I'm having so much fun with this game. It's a blast, and I really like that you can still utilize the math and like the preps and the flow charts. It's so much fun. I love this game, and it's only going to get better, right? So let's see. What are we seeing off the rip here? We see Meganium, Skarmory, and Aggron. So we're going to go over here. We're going to avoid that Skarmory, and we're going to come and try and steal one of these KOs if need be. If need be. We don't want to go too deep. All right, he's going to come after us. He's going to go for a fly. Pivot. Yep, we just didn't want to die there. Pivot again. See how we're blocking all this damage, and now he's blown everything. And his Swords Dance is almost gone. See how he's leaving? And we did not lose in that situation, and that is ridiculous. Not dying there is crazy. Cool. We're gonna try and get some boosts, some buffs up, because we actually can't do that much right now. But you see how we haven't like fed? Like, that's the really big important thing about ladder is, like, not feeding. Shadow Ball there. He already has Mega Chomp. He's going to come after us in a minute. But we see we already can eat that. Hit it there. Can I run this way, please? I need to get this heal. Don't kill me! Cool. Don't act like I can't fight you, bro. Got it. I got the KO before I died. I feel like that's still a win. Like, considering the fact that we were alive for a minute and a half without dying was absolutely amazing. Alright, Gallade's over there. I could fight the Gallade. Plus move. Shadow Ball. One shot. See? That's only with 36 points. We can eat this dig. Oh, we're gonna die here, though. Yep. I didn't see the Garchomp. The Garchomp was behind me. I was trying to fight the Pinsir. But we're currently still tied for first. We're going to get ready to go into Greninja here because they're utilizing a lot more of that Garchomp. There's a Mega Pinsir on the board. Damn, almost. You trying to fight me? Yeah, no thanks. Block it. Oh, never lucky. CC. Nice. Ah. See, but I've gone 1 for 1 every single time, and I think we're still doing okay. Alright, we need to Mega soon. It's Greninja time. Dunzo. Double KO there. Let's get the defense. See, we're using a lot of our plus moves. I think it's actually pretty important to do stuff like that. Go to Shandy. He has screens up, but this might still one-shot. Nope. This is going to be bad. Cool. I think we won, though. We stayed out of it. I think that's a really important way to do it. You don't always have to just run out and like dump truck everything. So we did get first place. Pretty easy first place too. I would say that we didn't really have to do a whole lot. We just utilized our swaps correctly. It's really important to utilize those swaps to mitigate damage. We swapped to the best of our ability, and we also utilized like the tech options like the Thunder Punch, the Shadow Balls, the Ice Beams. Like we took a lot of big wins here, and we're gonna go into one more. All right, we're going into one more game. I want you guys to let me know in the comments below what Mega you actually want to see me team build around for the next team building guide. Trying to drop like 2 or 3 of these a week. I want to get every single Mega covered as possible. Let me know what Mega you want to see me feature in the next team building guide, and let's get right into this battle. We got the, I think the vertical map here, right? Vertical map, we got Chestnut, Greninja, you'll like to see that, and Aggron. Bro, it's, you could think you could Earthquake me, bro, but it's like, what? Garchomp? Yeah, like what? Block it? Oh, it's gonna hit me. Good pivot. Fable. Would have loved to freeze there. Ooh! Got in just in time. I'm gonna Calm Mind versus this. The little baby Garchomp over there. Go for some good damage. I'm not really vibing with this right now. I'm gonna take a heal. It's a Surf? You could stop that. He has dual screens up on that Dragonite. I can fight you, bro. Don't act like I can't. Greninja. I don't like that. Block the Dark Pulse. Remember, that's why we have that fighting type right there. We can actually fight their Dragonite if we want to go back to it. Alright, good block. Oof. Mega Chomp is a bully. Oh, he has Bounce Greninja. That's crazy, bro. Bounce Greninja is kind of nuts. That's fine. I mean, I think that we're fine. A lot of low KOs in this game. Good block there. Alright. Okay. Yeah. A lot of Megas out here right now. Fine. Got it. Cool, that works for me. 1 for 1. Everyone has 1 KO. That definitely works. We're gonna go into Actually, we're gonna go into Greninja here. because there's a Sally right there. How's it going, buddy? Yep, Mega Sally's quite bulky. Aggron. Can't Mega just yet, but I can go for like a nasty plot and just like set up, or I can try to steal a KO on this Sally again. Just kidding. Ice Beam should get the KO. Nice Mega. I'm gonna do that too. Just try and wait out the time. Nasty plot. Nice. Ice Beam. 2, 3 KOs. This guy's gonna respawn over here in just a sec. We're gonna try and grab. Great Mega there. I shouldn't let them get that KO on me. So we tied for first place again. It's a little bit of a slow start in that game. Honestly, a little bit of a slow start, but you can see how Greninja, we talked about that when we were doing like our flow charting, our team building. Like coming out in the middle of the game, like we want to use the Chandelure to like condition people into you know, going for those big dragons, and you just come with the Greninja and the Chestnut and you just slap them up. So hopefully you guys like this little guide. I think it was a lot of fun. I feel like we used some pretty creative mons too. Like we utilized the Chandelure correctly. We sat around on the Chestnut at the beginning and the middle game. I feel like this game has so much depth. If you guys are enjoying this game, please think about letting me know in the comments below. And again, I would really appreciate it if you guys like this content. You learned something, think about dropping a sub on the channel. Trying to get to 50K. That's my dream here on YouTube. I've been doing this a while. And I'd love to get to 50K. So guys, thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed it. And if you have any questions, let me know in the comments. And other than that, peace out. I'll see you guys next time.